Welcome to Scrybes. I am Michael Robert Berry, and this is my partner, Lara L. Croft. We are the infamous Berry and Croft. And on this show, we interview writers. Now, on this episode, Lara is going to be interviewing
R.M. Allen, the author of New Hampshire Goddess Chronicles, Volume 1, Light Your Torch. R.M. Allen works in a church office, holds a master's in business communication, and in her own words, is on an orgasm magical spiritual safari. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It is such an honor to be able to interview somebody who has traveled a path that I admire and has taken the time to write a wonderful book about it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
For such a small book, there's so much packed into this. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of writing this book and what led you to choose the things in it that you have articulated?
Sure. This is my first book, and I wasn't quite sure how to write a book. I had gone to a book lecture at Water Street Bookstore, and I saw a bunch of different authors. I saw Linda Greenlaw for one. And I saw her up there, and I'm from Gloucester myself, and she wrote about Gloucester. She wrote The Hungry Ocean, which was the kind of sequel to Perfect Storm. And so I saw her up there, and I said, wow, she just looks so regular, and if she can do it, I can do it too, because I really know what she's talking about. So I think the important thing for a writer is to write about what you know about. So I went home that night and I typed a bulleted list of what I knew about that maybe somebody else wouldn't know about. Like ballroom dancing, like working in a church office, like experimenting with herbs. And that's kind of how I started this particular book. That's not how I'm doing my second book, but that's how this book came into being.
I'm interested in the choice that, even though you just described a lot of variety of different things that you know about, this book still has a spiritual quest feel to it. So was your bulleted list focused on the spiritual quest, or was that by accident almost? No,
the bulleted list was not. Like I said, it was my first time writing a book, and you have to start somewhere. Everybody wants to write a book, but then really not a lot of people do it because they don't really know how to start. So that's just my starting point. So after I had all of these bulleted items out and I wrote kind of essays, what you might call essays about them, I started thinking about how to wind them together into a story. And since my entire life is like an orgasmagical spiritual safari anyway, I'm very curious by nature, and I just seem to fall into these things. They just, it's like synchronicities happen to me. So I started writing, and they just kind of started all falling into place into the proper way to reflect the spirituality that is kind of inherent in the book.
It seemed somewhat chronological as I read it, but that may be something that you did as the writer, that you just sort of made it sound like, and then this happened, and then this happened to me, and then this happened to me. There was it seemed somewhat linear. Is that right? Or
it is very linear, and that is how I stitched the little essays together. And you do take a little bit of writer's license to maybe shift the chronological order a little bit to fit it, but basically it's the real truth.
Well, it reminded me a little bit, especially in the beginning, of Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert.
You're not the first person that has said that.
Not where you ended up with it, but a few things did. For example, she described herself as being in a loveless marriage, as you do in the book as well, at one point, and then coming out of it was almost the beginning of your spiritual journey. One thing about that moment that struck me, though, is you had a sort of, if not religious experience, at least a very imaginative experience where you had the devil on one shoulder and the angel